front of you with a win. I thought our guys did a really, really good job right in the first half with how he operated, and I'm just talking defensively. Coming out in the second half, listen, these guys have some really, really prideful men on that staff, on the field as far as players. And we knew it was going to be a hard-fought battle. That's exactly what I told our guys coming out of halftime. These guys are just not going to lay down. They have guys on that side of the ball that's done some good things in this league. So it was going to be a dogfight. Man, we hated the fact that it was in the dogfight that ended up to be. But, man, I'm really, really happy that our guys defensively was on the field to have to end that game in the way they fought. And the situation that we were in to have to win that game was outstanding. It was a good learning experience for all of us. And it's something that I told myself I was going to revisit with our guys, all right, this week, so they can understand exactly what my thought process was and how we got to continue to operate in a situation like that. Second thing, I know the elephant in the room is all the injuries that has happened with us on the defensive side. Listen, it is what it is. Listen, our personnel staff does a really good job of going to acquire players that fit exactly who we are. And I would say this, it's not the playbook that's the most important thing for these guys to come in and learn. It's the style of play that we have. And that's easy to learn because once you see it and once we show it to them, they understand, listen, this is how we play. Because we can shrink the playbook down as much as we want. But it's the way that you play that's the most important. And most of the guys that we bring in, they understand that. And we try to make sure we emphasize that as much as possible. So any questions?
All the time about do your job and not forcing guys to overlap for you because that causes everything to kind of fall apart. What do you do when you've got so many new pieces to just kind of hammer home that point, make sure the chemistry is right regardless of the play call?
I think what we've done, and if you look at the guys that we've had, like we brought in Muhammad. Muhammad was with us in New Orleans, so he understood some of the concepts that we have. We brought Quan in. We had Quan in New Orleans. He understands some of the concepts that we have. And any of the other guys, man, we try to make sure we spend as much time as we can with them and make sure we can shrink the playbook to where, man, these are the calls that we're going to have. Right? Understand what your job is, and then make sure they play a certain way. And that's the most important thing, like I said before, is just the play style.
You value them playing fast over having a vast amount of stuff in. Can you just explain like that?
Absolutely. Here's a saying that we say in our defense room. It's not what we play, it's how we play. You know, so if I can go in with 4 or 5 calls and they can play fast, they can play physical, they can play violent, that overcomes a lot of scheme. Listen, you can have as much scheme as you want, but players make the scheme, right? But actually players make the style of play better than the scheme if you think about it the right way. And our guys do a good job of that.
This will be your fourth time going up against Jordan Love. Just what are some of the biggest differences when you watch him now versus that first meeting in week 4 of last year?
Listen, here's and I'm going to give a lot of credit to the head coach also, because I know early in the season, I'm just talking about this season right now, I know he was throwing interceptions, all right, but he was still having a good year as far as getting the ball downfield and getting the ball to the receivers. I think what they've done a really good job of is, listen, Jacobs, you're going to run this team, and everything is going to go through you, which Love, that's going to make you even more effective because now, man, you have to try to stop this run because he's doing a really good job of running the ball. And now he's going to get more of his one-on-one matchups, and those throws might be somewhat easier for him. So, yes, I mean, Coach LaFleur has done a really good job of riding Jacobs, and then he's allowing Love to do the things that he's always been good at doing, is getting the ball downfield to these elite receivers that he have.
There was something Coach T said last week about getting Zadarius prepped. He really leaned on Cam Davis, and so you've got these assistant position coaches, Sean Dean Hamilton, Cam Davis, even Correo, you know, like how valuable are they to your staff this time of year when you're trying to incorporate these new guys?
Man, listen, those guys are huge, and it's hard for me to actually put in words exactly what those guys mean to me and how they go about doing their business because there's a lot on their plate, and I expect a lot from them, and my job is to prep them and get them ready for the next opportunity that they will get, if that's going to be a true position coach or if that's actually transition to a coordinator sometime. And I do believe in that, and I think it's my responsibility to make sure I do that. And man, they will grind these guys as much as they can to get them to understand exactly what we're doing. And they know exactly the vision that I have on defense, and they coach it exactly like I see it. And that's a good thing. Once you have guys across the board that's on the same page, that know exactly what I'm looking for, and they coach it to that point, all I can do is give those guys props because they do a hell of a job. And I'm glad they're on my side. I really am.
McNeil and Reeder seem like they're really hitting a stride as a duo on the inside. What does that do for your defense? I know there's guys missing on the outside and on the edges, but like when you have those two in the middle, what does that do for your defense?
Listen, anytime you have an inside presence like Mack and Reeder, it really frees up the edge players. And it goes vice versa too. When you have edge players, it helps freeze up the inside guys. But Mack, Reeder, I mean, those guys have been causing terror to offenses for the longest. And to see him go out there and get the production that he had this past week, because he doesn't get the credit he get, right? But then see him get the production with the 2 sacks, it was just time coming. You know, we knew that he can push the pocket. We knew that he can make plays like that. And again, I'm going to say this, he's way more athletic than what people give him credit for. And I expect those things to continue to happen for him.
Just to call it a slump or anything, but no takeaways the last 2 games. And you had some opportunities last week, obviously. How do you get back to, that?
Listen, we practice it all the time. And I think we've talked about this before. They come in bunches. And we have to get ready to start that streak again, especially against this team. Because we got to limit their possession as much as we can because of how explosive they are on offense. So we talked about that early in the week of making sure, man, we get back on that hot streak. And our guys look forward to doing that. And it starts today in practice.
Let's give up Zeke Turner. Not a guy that's played a lot of defense. Been in the league a while, but hasn't played a whole lot of defense. He's played quite a bit for you the last couple of weeks. And so how do you go about identifying that? What did you see on the practice field that let you trust him so quickly beyond just the straight need for it?
Here's one thing that I think we do here that's somewhat different than a lot of teams. Is we have true competition periods. And that can be one-on-one pass rush. That can be covering receivers versus DBs, linebackers versus running backs. And we get a chance to see exactly what the players do. And that's why I say so many times, man, you have to earn your keep here. And we practice ways to where you have to earn your keep. And, man, you watch him in those one-on-one situations. We see that we have a guy that's strong, that's fast, that's agile, that has a knack for covering running backs and tight ends. And once we see that, I'm like, man, we got a chance. We got to put this player out there and let him play. And he's been doing a good job for us in that situation.
Just to go back to Jacobs, their running back in the past, Aaron Jones was a pretty good running back as well. So what is it about Jacobs and you were mentioning LaFleur's run scheme that just has allowed them to take that run game just to a different level this year?
Big, powerful, hard to tackle, run after contact. And I said this the first time that we played them, is when you have a running back of that nature, it changes the mindset of the O-line. So now the O-line knows that we have this physical runner, so now that turns us into a more physical offensive line. And all they have to do is give him a little crease, and they know that he's going to make 3 yards out of nothing. And most of those 3 yards end up getting to be 6 and 7 yards because he's going to break a tackle. So I think he fits that scheme perfectly. And he's doing a hell of a job as far as, man, complementing the whole offense, which allows now the vertical passing game to show up.
Turnover at the linebacker room, just
say that one more time.
With all the turnover you've had in the linebacker room, just with some of the injuries and stuff, and you guys coming in, just how important and how steady has Jack been over the last few weeks to just kind of calm everything from that position?
Man, he's a rock. And I've said this several times, but the Mike linebacker, if you had a picture of a Mike, like he would be probably standing in front because of how he operates. He's a man's man. He loves standing in front of the huddle to give the call out to those guys, and they really, really respect him. And they respect him because of who he is personally, but they respect the way that he plays the game. It's 100 miles per hour all the time, even in walkthrough. I mean, he's going through his reads and he's going through his drops. Man, he's making sure he fit up on the ball the right way, bent knees, like ready to strike. And it's just who he is. And he has been a rock for us. And listen, I'm glad that we have him.
Yesterday, sort of about the cyclical, obviously, but like all the good teams in the NFL right now have really strong running games.
Yeah.
It seems like at least good backs. Defensively, from that side of the ball, why is that tougher or more of a challenge for you for any defense to stop a team?
Listen, just as an overall coach, and I'm not saying this because I'm a defensive coach, but I'm a huge fan of the running game because it opens up so many different things for you offensively. We know the play action game opens up, and then to be able to have the gun runs with a dynamic running back to where, man, it can be dry back or you can run the ball in those gun with those gun runs. So anytime you have, especially if you have two of them like we have, it really makes it tough. So, man, it just seemed like this league is starting to cycle back to these dynamic running backs to where, listen, we're going to run the ball first and we're going to let everything else happen after that. And teams are starting to understand that. So I've heard some guys talking about it maybe a week ago, how now the running back name is starting to come back because you got Henry, you have Jacobs, you have all these guys that's actually changing the face of what the teams are doing now. That more teams are starting to look at the running back as a position of need. But as a defensive coach, we always love those guys because you can control the clock in that situation. So teams are doing a really good job with these running backs.
Playing a game? Just that style of ball, you know what I mean?
Say it one more time.
Does it feel like when you were a player in a game where that's sort of...
Well, you don't have the 21 personnel like it was when I was a player, but it's just how you utilize those guys and what they can do for you and how you can control the game with those guys. Man, just think about it. If you get 4 yards a pop, man, you putting yourself in a 3rd and 2 situation. And every offense wants to be in that situation because it opens up so many things you can do. You can still run it, right? Or you have your passing game there that you can use. So when you have running backs like the one we're about to play against, man, it's really tough to prepare against, and it's really tough to actually just like have an idea what the offense coordinator is going to do when this running back can make so many yards.